On the night my marriage finally snapped, there were no candles, no lipstick on a collar, no mysterious perfume. There was a neon hair tie and a pile of damp gym socks. I was standing at the kitchen counter, elbow deep in my husband's laundry, when I found it. Tuesday night, 7:42 p.m. I remember the time because the oven clock was blinking at me, like it was also judging my life choices. The apartment was quiet. The TV in the living room was still frozen on Doug's precious sports channel, little men running in a loop, chasing a ball like nothing in the world could possibly go wrong. I unzipped his gym bag, expecting the usual: sweat, regret, and a damp towel he'd forgotten for 3 days. Instead, my fingers closed around something small, stretchy, and not mine. I pulled it out and just stared. Bright, fluorescent, youthful. The kind of hair tie you wear if you have long, shiny hair that still believes in its own future. My hair, for the record, is short, silver, and has seen some things. I stood there, holding that neon loop between my thumb and forefinger, and one very calm, very inconvenient thought drifted through my head. If I put this in my hair, I'd look like a retired onion trying to join a K-pop group. I actually laughed. Out loud. Alone in the kitchen, in my oldest t-shirt, surrounded by his sweaty workout clothes, laughing like a woman in a commercial for antidepressants before they take the pill. And then the laugh caught in my throat and turned into something else. Because here's the thing, I don't wear hair ties. Haven't in years. My hair is cropped close, silver at the temples, the kind that stylists call chic, and relatives call brave when they mean old. There is no universe in which this neon thing belongs to me. So whose was it? The obvious answer walked in 10 minutes later, jangling his keys like always, smelling faintly of eucalyptus body wash and ego. Doug tossed his jacket over the back of the chair, kissed the top of my head like a man who has never in his life read a single room correctly, and went straight for the fridge. "Hey, Jules," he said, like we were in a sitcom. "You didn't have to do my laundry." "I know," I said. My voice sounded almost normal. But then I wouldn't get to discover fun little surprises. He didn't even turn around. What surprises? I held up the hair tie. It dangled from my finger like a tiny glowing noose. "This," I said. "Did your biceps grow so much they need their own accessories now?" That got his attention. He shut the fridge door a little too fast. A bottle clinked inside. He turned, glanced at the hair tie, and I watched it, just a flicker, half a second. But it was there. That small, guilty pause. The micro-hesitation of a man whose brain is sprinting through excuses like a Rolodex on fire. "Oh," he said. "That. It must be from the gym, lost and found. Maybe it got stuck in my bag. Those locker rooms are a mess." Locker rooms are a mess, right? So messy that women's hair ties apparently leap off their heads and hide inside married men's gym bags, wedged between their towel and their protein shaker. I gave him my best polite wife smile, the one I've perfected over 30 years. "Wow, that locker room sounds very hands-on." He rolled his eyes. "Julia, don't start. It's just a hair tie. You're overreacting again." Again. That word stung more than the lie. I didn't throw the thing away. I could have. I could have dropped it in the trash and let the garbage disposal chew it up like it chews everything else in this apartment. Instead, when Doug went to shower, I rinsed the sweat off it, dried it carefully, and slipped it into the back of my drawer. I told myself it was just curiosity. Insurance. A souvenir from the night my gut finally raised its hand and said, "Excuse me, I think we have a problem." Back then, I had no idea how right it was, or how much trouble one tiny neon circle was about to cause. If you've ever had a bad feeling whisper in your ear and you told it, "Shh, not now, I'm busy folding towels," then congratulations, we've lived the same life. Because after the neon hair tie incident, I didn't become a detective. I became annoyingly reasonable. I told myself all the classic lines women like me recite when we're trying to keep a marriage alive with duct tape and denial. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe the gym really is chaotic. Maybe women these days throw their hair ties around like parade confetti. I didn't believe a single one, but I said them anyway. Out loud. In the bathroom mirror. Like affirmations for someone who desperately does not want to know the truth. Doug certainly didn't help. For the next week, he was unusually affectionate, bringing home my favorite sourdough, offering back rubs he hadn't offered since Obama's first term, and cheerfully asking, "How was your day, babe?" with the desperate enthusiasm of a man trying to pet a guard dog before it realizes he's the intruder. But the signs were everywhere, and once you notice one, your eyes adjust to the darkness. Sign number 1, the fitness obsession that came out of absolutely nowhere. Doug had always been a 3 push-ups and a nap kind of man. Suddenly he was doing morning stretches, talking about macros, and acting as if the gym was a sacred temple where he'd finally found himself. I should have been happy he cared about his health. Instead, I felt like someone had replaced my husband with a fitness influencer who had something to hide. One morning, I joked, "Don't pull anything, honey. At your age, even your bones are union workers. They take a lunch break every 10 minutes. He didn't laugh. Another red flag. Sign number 2, his phone became the 5th member of our marriage. Doug started taking his phone into the shower and drying it off afterward with a towel. A towel. For a phone. I asked, "Are you bathing it too? Should I get it some conditioner?" "Very funny," he muttered, clutching it like it was a newborn. If you ever want to check the health of your relationship, watch how fast your partner grabs their phone when you walk into the room. Doug practically threw himself over it like a soldier shielding a grenade. Sign number 3, the private training sessions. This one hurt more than the others. One night, Doug casually mentioned he was adding 2 more weekly sessions with his PT. "Oh?" I said, stirring my tea. "Since when do you need private training 4 times a week? Planning to join the Olympics for men who just discovered cardio?" He snapped, "Julia, please, don't make this a thing." But everything was already a thing, and his defensiveness was louder than the tea kettle whistling behind me. The moment my memory betrayed me. That night, lying in bed, I remembered something I had forgotten for years. The time Doug's mother told him right in front of me, "You married up. She's too smart for you. Don't give her a reason to realize it." He laughed. I didn't. Funny how that memory comes back the very week you find a hair tie that isn't yours. Social media did the rest. The next morning, while Doug showered with his beloved phone, I scrolled through the gym's Instagram page. There she was. Kayla. Young, fit, ponytail high enough to broadcast hope, wearing the exact kind of neon hair tie I'd found. And there, beside her in a group shot, barely visible in the corner, Doug, smiling like a man who'd just discovered the meaning of life. I felt something twist inside me. Not jealousy. Recognition. Because Kayla looked exactly like the kind of woman who once looked at me, years ago, and said, "Wow, you must have been so pretty when you were young." Translation: your expiration date has been stamped. Mine hasn't yet. The decision I didn't know I was making. I didn't confront Doug that night, or the night after. Instead, I watched him leave for the gym every morning, swinging his bag, humming some god-awful upbeat playlist, believing he was the hero of his own midlife movie. And I thought, if you insist on making me the background character, at least let me choose when I step into the spotlight. What I didn't realize was that my spotlight moment was already being arranged by fate, or stupidity. Because in less than a week, something was going to happen inside that luxury gym that would peel the shiny paint right off his new life. And it all started with the tiniest itch. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and instantly understand why your husband suddenly cares about core strength? Yeah. I had that moment. In 4K. With surround sound. It happened on a Thursday morning, bright, smug sunlight pouring through our windows, when I decided to visit Doug's gym. Not to spy. At least, that's what I told myself. No, I went because after scrolling the gym's Instagram for 2 nights straight, I thought, why not get a guest pass and see what the hype is about? Translation: let's confirm whether I'm crazy or he is. Welcome to Olympus for people with disposable income. The gym was a cathedral, a luxury fitness temple where even the treadmills looked like they had trust funds. I stepped through the glass doors and instantly felt underdressed, outaged, and overdignified. Young people in matching athleisure sets floated around with smoothies the color of envy. Trainers strutted like superheroes. Everybody had a smartwatch, a water bottle that cost more than my blender, and a level of self-importance only cardio can give. I checked in, smiled politely, and told the receptionist I was thinking about joining. Her eyes did a quick scan, my silver hair, my sensible sneakers, my very not Lululemon outfit, and she plastered on a customer service smile so wide it probably hurt. "Of course, ma'am," she chirped. "Ma'am, Always the opening act to disrespect. She gave me a tour. I nodded, made small talk, pretended I cared deeply about their eucalyptus towels and protein bar menu. But then we turned a corner and I saw him. Doug and her. Doug was across the room, doing that stretch men do when they want to seem athletic but haven't fully committed to the lifestyle. And beside him, correcting his form with 2 fingers on his shoulder, was Kayla. She was exactly like her Instagram, tall, toned, ponytail high and bouncing like it had its own agent. A neon hair tie flashed at the base of it, glowing like a taunt only I could hear. My stomach didn't drop, it just shifted. Like a puzzle piece clicking into place. I didn't storm in. I didn't scream. I didn't even flinch. My dignity may have been bruised, but it was still mine. Instead, I kept walking with the receptionist, listening to her drone on about resistance bands, while my brain narrated the real tour. Here's where your husband pretends cardio is spiritual healing. Here's where he ignores the woman who made him sandwiches for 30 years. And here, right here, is the personal trainer who thinks midlife crises pay well. As we approached, Doug spotted me. It was microscopic. A half-second delay before he smiled, but I caught it. Guilt, panic, confusion, a buffet of emotions flickered across his face. "Oh, Julia," he said, wiping non-existent sweat. "What are you doing here?" "I'm thinking of joining," I said sweetly. "You've inspired me." His eyes widened. He hadn't inspired anyone since the 90s. Kayla turned toward me, the kind of smile young women give older women. They think it's respectful, but it's actually pity with lip gloss. "Hi, I'm Kayla," she chirped. "I train Doug twice a week." "Twice?" I said, tilting my head. "Oh, honey, he told me it was once." Doug coughed, hard. Kayla blinked, confused. Bless her heart. She didn't even know she was in danger. A conversation with teeth, I stuck out my hand. "Lovely to meet you. I see you take excellent care of my husband's posture." A beat. Kayla smiled, politely, professionally, obliviously. Doug's face tightened just enough to tell me I'd hit something tender. I didn't stay long. I thanked the receptionist, murmured something about thinking it over, and walked out. But as I passed the glass doors, sunlight hit something shiny on the floor, another neon hair tie. I didn't pick it up. I just stared at it, lying there like evidence in a crime scene that hadn't been solved yet. What shifted that day? I drove home with the AC blasting, hands steady on the wheel. Inside me, something rearranged, quietly, calmly, like someone sliding a new script across the table. For the first time, I wasn't wondering whether Doug was cheating. I was wondering how long he thought I'd stay in the dark. And even more interestingly, what would happen when I finally switched the lights on. There are moments in life when your dignity whispers, "Sweetheart, get up." And then there are moments when it leans in closer and says, "Also, bring scissors, gasoline, or something equally motivational." For me, that moment happened in the party supply aisle of a big box store. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for balloons, pink ones, heart-shaped, for my granddaughter's 6th birthday. But the universe, with its famously terrible sense of humor, led me straight past the prank section. And that's when I saw it, itching powder. Bright red packaging, cartoon character scratching like he'd made catastrophic life choices. I picked it up, turned it over, read the back twice, non-toxic, for harmless pranks. Avoid eyes. And something inside me, something long suffocated, long dismissed, long trained to be polite, sat up and stretched its legs. I didn't smile. I smirked. Because this wasn't about causing pain, it was about causing clarity. The kitchen table experiment. That evening, Doug announced he'd be heading to the gym early the next morning for a PT strength session. Of course he would. After he went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of chamomile tea, the lights dimmed just enough to give the illusion that I was the heroine in a noir film. I placed the neon hair tie, the one I'd found in his gym bag, on a paper towel. Its bright color mocked me under the kitchen light. Then I opened the itching powder packet and paused. Not from guilt, though maybe I should have felt that. No, I paused because it hit me. I was finally doing something, not reacting, not denying, not swallowing my pride like it was another vitamin supplement for women 50+. I was choosing myself. I sprinkled a tiny amount, barely a pinch, onto the inside fabric of the hair tie. I rubbed it in gently, like seasoning a very petty piece of chicken. And I laughed. Softly. The kind of laugh that comes after months, maybe years, of pretending everything is fine when it very much isn't. If a therapist had walked in at that moment, they would have scheduled me for 6 emergency sessions. But to me, it felt liberating. The line I absolutely wouldn't cross before anyone panics. I checked the powder again and again and again. I wasn't out to harm anyone. I wasn't that woman. But embarrassing someone who's been lying to me, letting the truth itch its way to the surface, that I could live with. And sleep peacefully after. Then came the message that changed everything. Just as I finished cleaning up, hair tie now seasoned, and slipped back into Doug's gym bag, my phone buzzed. A message request. From a stranger. Mike. His profile picture showed a man in his 30s, beard, flannel shirt, the kind of smile people wear when they still believe life is negotiable. The message only said, "Hi, I think we should talk. It's about Kayla." I stared at it. My pulse kicked. My palms went cold. Because suddenly, this wasn't just a suspicion, or a hair tie, or an itch waiting to happen. This was the beginning of something bigger, something that might blow everything open in ways I hadn't even imagined yet, and without fully understanding why, I smiled. Not a petty smile. Not a vengeful one, a relieved one. Because it meant one thing. I wasn't the only person in this story who had finally decided to stop being polite. If fate had a sense of elegance, it would have introduced Mike to me over wine in a quiet restaurant. Instead, it sent him through Facebook Messenger at 11:08 p.m., right when I was considering whether chamomile tea tasted like peace or surrender. I tapped the message open. "Hi, I think we should talk. It's about Kayla." Kayla, the neon ponytail. The personal trainer who fixed Doug's posture like she was adjusting furniture. I typed back 2 words, when and where. Cafe encounter, 2 people burned by the same flame. We met the next afternoon at a small cafe near the luxury gym. A place that sold pastries so expensive they should have come with a trust fund. Mike arrived first. Mid-30s, plaid shirt, worn-out boots, the look of a man who had recently discovered betrayal and had not yet built emotional calluses for it. He stood when I approached, surprised that Doug's wife wasn't, apparently, the frail, trembling stereotype he'd imagined. "You're Julia?" he asked. I smiled politely. "The legally married antique he's been hiding." "Yes." He blinked twice, then actually laughed, one of those tight, disbelieving laughs people make when life stops pretending it's fair. We sat. He ordered coffee, I ordered tea. Both of us avoided small talk like it was a contagious disease. "I'm not sure where to start," Mike sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Start with the part where you found out," I said calmly. "People usually look the most human right there." The proof he brought. He slid his phone across the table. Messages, photos, screenshots of schedules, Doug's name saved under a fake contact, gym selfies that no husband should be sending anyone except maybe a cardiologist. I wasn't shocked, not really. You can't be shocked when the truth only confirms what you've already bled over. But seeing it laid out like a spreadsheet of stupidity, well, that hit differently. Mike watched me closely. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "You didn't deserve this." And here's the twist. It didn't feel like pity. It felt like recognition. Like someone else had finally been handed the same script and said, "Oh, you too?" Anger is hot. Betrayal is cold. But strategy? Strategy is perfect room temperature. When I finally pushed the phone back to him, I asked, "So, what do you want to do?" "I don't know," he admitted. "Part of me wants to punch him." I stirred my tea. Violence is tacky, and it builds their narrative. Look at this jealous ex, this crazy wife. I leaned in. But humiliation? Truth revealed at the right time, to the right audience? That's couture. Mike stared at me, eyebrows raised. "Are you always this composed?" "Oh no," I said. "Sometimes I cry into dish towels, but today isn't that day." The beginning of a plan. I told him everything, about the gym visit, the neon hair tie, the powder, the timing, the class Doug would attend tomorrow morning. I expected judgment. What I got was admiration. "You're scary good at this," Mike whispered. "I'm 59, I said. "I've had decades of practice pretending everything is fine. Turns out the skill transfers." We mapped it out together. Doug and Kayla had their Thursday morning workout. The hair tie was in Doug's bag. Kayla always tied her hair up right before the warm-up. Mike, by coincidence, would drop by the gym around that time. If the relationship was as inappropriate as we both knew, they'd panic. If they panicked publicly, even better. But the most important part? Neither of us would lift a finger once the workout began. The itch and the truth would do the heavy lifting. A toast to mutual destruction with tea. When we stood to leave, Mike hesitated. "I appreciate you," he said awkwardly. "Not just for the plan. For not falling apart." "Oh, I fell apart," I said lightly. "But I do it on my own time, not theirs," he smiled. A real one. The first since we'd sat down. As we parted ways, I realized something strange. For years, I had been alone in my suspicions, my doubts, my silence. And now I had an ally, someone who wanted the truth out as much as I did. As I walked back to my car, one thought lodged itself firmly in my mind. The universe hadn't given me a neon hair tie by accident. It had given me an accomplice. There is a very specific calm that settles over you the night before a storm you've personally scheduled. Not dread, not guilt. Something closer to project management. I spent Wednesday evening gliding around the apartment like a woman prepping for a holiday dinner, not a marital implosion. I was oddly graceful about it, humming, wiping counters, lighting a candle that smelled like eucalyptus and female empowerment. Doug barely noticed. He was too busy packing his gym bag with the enthusiasm of a teenager preparing for summer camp. "The performance prep. Do we have clean towels?" Doug called from the bedroom. "We," I said, sipping tea. Adorable choice of pronoun. He didn't get it. That was fine. I wasn't performing for him. I wandered over to watch him pack. Fresh gym t-shirt, energy bar, his precious wireless earbuds, and, just peeking from the corner pocket, the neon hair tie. It sat there like a co-conspirator, glowing with sinful optimism. Doug zipped the bag shut, unaware that a tiny powder-laced Trojan horse waited inside. "You sure you don't want to come with me tomorrow?" he asked, forcing a casual tone. "Oh no," I smiled. "You two seem to have a rhythm, wouldn't dream of interrupting." He interpreted that as support. Bless his limited emotional vocabulary, the strategic calm of a woman done being lied to. That night, lying in bed beside the man who'd turned our marriage into a side quest, I didn't feel afraid. I felt released. For 30 years I had been predictable, gentle, reasonable, forgiving, steady. But men forget that steady ground can still shift. Earthquakes come from the same soil that once grew flowers. Doug fell asleep fast. Cheating apparently burns calories, but I lay awake, listening to his breathing. Not out of sentiment, but out of habit. And then a thought came. Quiet but sharp. This is the last night he'll sleep in this bed as the man who controls the narrative. Meanwhile, Mike was doing his part. At 10:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Mike, all set for tomorrow. Got the guest day pass. HR friend coming too. Don't worry, no drama, unless they make it." I exhaled slowly. The plan was simple but elegant. Doug and Kayla would start their warm-up at 9:15 a.m. Kayla always tied her hair after warm-up stretches, right before weights. The powder would activate fast, subtle itch becoming a full dramatic experience. Mike would walk in at 9:30 a.m., unexpectedly. If Doug and Kayla were indeed inappropriate, the panic would do the rest. If they weren't, well then nothing embarrassing would happen, and I'd simply know. Truth serves itself. We were just setting the table. The morning of the match, Doug left early, 7 a.m., full of protein shake confidence. I watched him lace his shoes, straighten his shirt, look at himself in the mirror with the energy of a divorced dad dating again, except, ironically, he wasn't divorced. Yet. "Have a good workout," I said, leaning on the doorframe. He grinned. "You too. You should rest. You look tired." Tired. Right. Women who carry marriages on their backs often do, but I just smiled warmly. "Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea how rested I'm about to be." He didn't catch the tone. He never did. He walked out, gym bag swinging. The door clicked shut. I let the silence settle around me like a silk robe. The shift, I poured myself coffee. Opened the blinds, watched the sun spill across the kitchen floor. This was the moment, right here, when something in me rearranged permanently. For the first time in decades, I realized I wasn't hoping he loved me enough to stay faithful. I was hoping I loved myself enough to stop accepting crumbs, and tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after the fallout, I would not be the same woman. Today, though, I simply waited, for truth, for clarity, for justice, dressed in activewear. A soft vibration broke the quiet. "Mike, heading in. Showtime." I put my mug down, steady-handed, because the stage we'd built was ready, the actors were in place, the powder was primed, and Doug, My husband, my betrayer, my accidental comedy special, was exactly 8 minutes away from learning the difference between sweating and squirming. I wasn't at the gym that morning. I didn't need to be. Real power isn't showing up to the battlefield. It's arranging the furniture so your enemies trip on their own ego. But I was there in spirit, and via the secret weapon of divorced women everywhere. A man with a smartphone and nothing left to lose. Mike kept me updated in real time. 9:12 a.m. They're warming up. I pictured it perfectly. Doug doing his awful high knees, the ones where his arms flail like an inflatable tube man outside a car dealership. Kayla beside him, ponytail bouncing with cheerful ignorance, wearing a fresh tank top and the confidence of a woman who believes consequences are optional. 9:16 a.m. She's grabbing the hair tie from his bag. I sat straighter in my kitchen chair. This was the moment. Kayla pulled the neon hair tie out, my neon hair tie, and wrapped it twice, quick and tight, around her ponytail. The powder was subtle, invisible, patient, just waiting for body heat and sweat to activate. And then, the performance began. 9:20 a.m., she's scratching her neck. At first Mike said it looked normal. A casual itch, a little flick of fingers along her jawline. But itching is like lying. Once you start, it escalates. 9:23 a.m. Okay, she's scratching a lot. Imagine a graceful trainer trying to maintain her authority while her body betrays her in HD. She tried to keep talking, demonstrating proper squat form, while wiggling her shoulders like she'd suddenly developed interpretive dance tendencies. Doug noticed. Of course he did. But instead of concern, he looked panicked. Guilt has a smell. Apparently, so does itching powder. 9:25 a.m., Mike sent a video. I tapped it open. Oh, it was art. Kayla, mid-instruction, suddenly jolted like she'd been tasered by invisible bees. Her hand shot to her neck, then her scalp, then back to her neck. She looked like she was trying to swat at a ghost. Doug whispered something urgently. Kayla snapped, "I'm fine," which is exactly what people say right before they collapse emotionally in public. 9:27 a.m., I'm going in. Mike entered the gym like a man who accidentally wandered into a soap opera. His timing was flawless. Kayla froze when she saw him, or tried to freeze. It was hard to freeze when you were scratching like a desperate raccoon trapped in an ethical dilemma. Mike lifted a hand casually. "Morning, babe." Babe, inside a crowded gym, in front of her lover, in front of Doug. Oh, the poetry. Doug paled. What Mike said next was Shakespearean violence. He walked over slowly, hands in pockets. "So this is the famous PT session?" he asked loudly enough for the class and the adjacent class to hear. Kayla sputtered. Doug stepped back, the universal sign of a guilty man preparing a terrible lie. Mike continued. "Funny, I didn't know you offered couples sessions now." A woman on a treadmill gasped. A man lifting weights lowered them in slow motion. The gym had become a theater, and my little powdery hair tie was the lighting crew. Kayla implodes. Doug disintegrates. Kayla tried to talk, but her voice came out strangled by itch and panic. It's not. Mike, what are you? Doug cut in. This isn't what it looks like. Ah, the classic line. Men should trademark it. They've been using it since the Stone Age. Mike tilted his head. You sure? Because from what I'm seeing, she's touching a lot of things that aren't dumbbells. Someone in the back wheezed with laughter. Kayla mid-scratch shrieked, "Stop it! I'm having a reaction." "Oh," Mike said sweetly, "so is your conscience." The collapse. A gym manager hurried over. People whispered. Phones came out. Kayla bolted toward the bathroom, scratching furiously, ponytails swinging like a neon distress beacon. Doug chased after her and slipped on a resistance band. Face first. Justice doesn't always need choreography. Sometimes a rubber band on the floor is enough. 9:34 a.m. Mike's final text. He sent me one sentence. "Show's over. They're done." I exhaled slowly, letting my shoulders drop, letting months of tension ooze out like bad sap. The truth hadn't just revealed itself. It had thrown a tantrum in a public gym. And tomorrow, Doug would walk through our front door thinking he could explain it away. He had no idea the explanation wasn't what I was waiting for. I was waiting for the opportunity. Doug came home that evening, looking like a man who had been chased through a forest by bees, shame, and cardiovascular inadequacy. He dropped his gym bag by the door, hard. It made a thud that screamed, "I'm the victim in this story." I sat at the dining table, reading on my tablet with the calm of a woman who already knew the ending. He hovered there, puffing, sweaty, irritated. I didn't look up. Finally, he croaked, "Julia, we need to talk." Ah, the 4 words men use when they want to rewrite history before the credits roll. I closed my tablet gently, almost ceremonially, and placed it beside my glass of water. "Sure," I said. "Let's." Gaslighting, the encore no one asked for. Doug sat across from me, running a hand through his thinning hair with the desperation of a man trying to look put together. "Something happened at the gym today," he began. "Oh?" I raised an eyebrow. "Did your trainer tell you to stretch your morals too?" His nostrils flared. Always a good sign. "Julia, this was all a huge misunderstanding," he insisted. "Kayla had some allergic reaction or something. And Mike, he's unstable. He's obsessed with her. He showed up and started making accusations that aren't true." I nodded slowly, like a therapist encouraging a child to finish a lie so it can be corrected. Doug leaned forward, earnest, wounded, performing sincerity like it was regional theater. "There is nothing between me and Kayla," he said. "Nothing inappropriate, nothing emotional, nothing physical." Interesting how nothing always hides something. "And," he added, "I hate that you'd even think that." I smiled, warmly, the kind of smile that historically precedes public executions in royal courts. "Well," I said softly, "you're in luck." He blinked. "Why?" "Because I'm done thinking." The moment I set the table with the truth. I reached into the drawer beside me, pulled out a small folder and placed it on the table. Doug froze. Men always freeze when paper appears. It's their kryptonite. Inside the folder, a printout of Doug and Kayla in the gym photo I'd seen online. Screenshots Mike had sent me. A timeline cross-referencing Doug's late meetings with Kayla's gym shifts. And finally, the retainer agreement from the divorce attorney I'd met 2 weeks earlier. Doug's eyes flicked wildly across the documents. "Ooh, Julia, what is this? What are you doing?" "Oh, sweetheart," I said gently. "What I should have done years ago." He shoved the papers aside. "This doesn't prove anything. All of this, is circumstantial." I nodded. "So was the Titanic hitting the iceberg, but it still sank." Doug stood abruptly, pacing, muttering, clutching his head. "This is insane," he said. "You're being emotional, irrational, you're not thinking clearly." Ah, yes, the final stage of male denial, accusing the woman of insanity because her logic is airtight. "I'm actually thinking clearer than ever," I said. "I'm simply tired of living in the plot twist of your midlife crisis." He slammed his hand on the table. "There is no midlife crisis." "Doug," I said kindly, "you own 3 new tank tops and a liter-sized protein shaker. The crisis is already monogrammed." He stopped, stared, went pale. Where the power shifted, I picked up my tablet again. "Doug, I'm not asking for confessions. I'm not asking for apologies. I'm telling you what happens next." He swallowed, loudly. "You'll stay with your brother for now. I've frozen our joint credit card until the separation agreement is finalized. My lawyer will reach out about division of assets. And no, before you ask, I won't be covering any legal fees tied to your employment investigation." His face drained of color. "How do you even know about?" "Oh, Douglas," I sighed. "If you're going to cheat, at least pick someone whose boyfriend doesn't have access to HR." When the candle finally went out, he sank into the chair, deflated. "Julia, please. Can we talk about this? We've been together for so long." "Yes," I said, nodding gently. "We have, and that's why this is so overdue." I leaned forward. "For decades, I was patient, I was forgiving, I was small so you could feel big. But today," I gestured vaguely toward the gym direction. "Today, you showed me exactly where I stand in your life. And tomorrow, I choose where you stand in mine." He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "But don't worry," I added with a soft laugh. "I'll speak highly of you in therapy. My therapist enjoys comedy." The end of the scene. Doug packed a bag in silence. Not his gym bag this time, his overnight one. And when the front door closed behind him, the entire apartment expanded around me. Like I had finally inhaled after holding my breath for years. The candle on the table flickered. I blew it out. No drama, no tears, just closure. Doug didn't slam the door when he left. That almost disappointed me. A slam would have suggested passion, something we hadn't shared in years. Instead, the door clicked shut with the quiet dignity of a man who finally understands that the consequences he ordered on Amazon have been delivered early. The first 48 hours of his new reality. He tried everything. Hour 2, a text. "Can we talk?" I ignored it. Hour 6, a second text. "You're making a mistake." I muted the thread. Hour 11, a voicemail. Doug attempting tears but achieving only mucus. Delete. Hour 22, a message through our daughter. Mom, Dad says he's worried about you. I told her calmly, sweetheart, your father is worried because I am finally not. By day 2, Doug had shifted from faux remorse to damage control. He emailed my lawyer, yes, emailed like a man asking for an extension on a group project he never contributed to, claiming the separation was premature. My lawyer responded with a masterpiece of professionalism that translated to, Sir, sit down. And that was just the beginning. The corporate avalanche. Remember how Mike's friend in HR attended the gym session for fun? Apparently, the fun continued. Doug's workplace opened a professional conduct investigation. The kind that looks into inappropriate relationships between supervisors and contractors affiliated with company partnerships. Turns out, the gym chain had a corporate partnership with Doug's employer. Kayla wasn't just a personal trainer, she was part of a vendor program. Translation: if you sleep or attempt to sleep with someone connected to your company's professional ecosystem, the ecosystem takes an interest. Doug tried to downplay it as a misunderstanding. HR politely disagreed. Nothing ruins a man's confidence faster than discovering his midlife crisis might come with paperwork. Kayla's spiral. Remember her dramatic exit from the gym bathroom? It got worse. Clients whispered, management questioned. Her relationship status went from in a committed relationship to it's complicated to single in 72 hours. The gym suspended her pending review. I didn't celebrate. Contrary to popular belief, women my age don't enjoy seeing young women fall apart. We've just learned not to burn for men who wouldn't spit on us if we were on fire. But consequences are consequences. What about Mike? He texted me updates but also something unexpected. I'm weirdly okay. This feels like a reset. We grabbed coffee one afternoon, not plotting, just decompressing. He had shaved his beard, looked lighter, younger somehow. I forgot what it felt like to breathe, he admitted. I nodded. Men forget they can suffocate women. Women forget they can suffocate too. We talked about everything, his heartbreak, my anger, our bizarre partnership. When he left, he gave me a warm side hug and said, "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met." I believed him. For once, I really did. The rebuilding begins, and it's messy in the best way. With Doug out of the apartment, silence changed shape. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was spacious. I reorganized bookshelves, donated 3 boxes of clothes I hadn't worn since 2008, opened windows and let real air in for the first time in decades. One afternoon, I caught myself humming, not forced, not performative, just humming. I joined a writing workshop, something I'd wanted to do for years but always postponed because Doug didn't like driving at night or needed dinner early. I ordered myself a new notebook, thick pages, gold edges. A notebook for a future that wasn't crowded by lies. Doug's last stand by week 2, he showed up at the building, not at the door, thank God, but downstairs at the lobby desk. He asked the receptionist to call me. I said, "Tell him Julia isn't available, but Mrs. Reynolds' legal counsel will be in touch." Doug sputtered something in the background. The receptionist, bless her neutral face, relayed, "He says he wants a chance to explain." I replied, "He had 30 years. The moment I finally felt free. One night I made dinner for one. A simple meal, but plated beautifully, like I was someone worth cooking for. Because I am. I sat at the dining table, the same table where Doug used to gaslight me, dismiss me, shrink me, but now it felt like mine again. My home, my peace, my story. I didn't toast to revenge or justice. I toasted to clarity, to finally seeing myself without the fog of compromise. Tomorrow would bring more phone calls, legal steps, emotional aftershocks. But tonight I breathed, and it didn't hurt. I didn't become a new woman overnight. There was no fairy tale makeover, no dramatic haircut, no you go girl montage with upbeat music. Instead, the transformation came quietly, like dawn light spilling into a room that had been dark for too damn long. My apartment, my rules, my breathing space. With Doug officially moved out and the separation agreement moving forward, the apartment felt different. Not empty, not lonely, open. I rearranged the living room, moved the couch so it faced the windows instead of the TV Doug once worshipped. Bought a plant. A dramatic one with sprawling leaves that took up emotional space in the best way. For the first time in years, the air smelled like citrus instead of stale silence. I started leaving my books open on the table. Doug used to hate that, said it made the place look cluttered. Now it looked lived in. Reclaiming myself without needing a witness. Mornings were my favorite. I'd wake early, brew strong coffee, and sit at the counter with my new notebook, the one with gold edges, writing down thoughts, pieces of essays, scenes from a novel I might one day finish. Not because someone asked me to. Not because someone needed me to. But because it belonged to me. One morning I wrote, "I used to think loyalty meant staying. Now I know it means not abandoning myself." And strangely, that line stayed with me like a song stuck in my head. Mike's happy ending, that didn't involve me. People always assume the betrayed wife and the betrayed boyfriend fall into each other's arms. Real life is less cliché. Mike and I stayed in touch, friendly, supportive, honest. He started dating someone new, a nurse who laughed loudly and loved hiking. When he told me, he looked nervous. I smiled. "You deserve someone who doesn't make you compete with gym equipment." He laughed until he teared up. It felt good, clean, warm, uncomplicated, to genuinely wish him well. We survived a war together. That didn't mean we needed to build a house from the rubble. Doug's slow, predictable collapse. My lawyer kept me updated. Doug's investigation dragged on. HR found ethical concerns. He wasn't fired. Men like Doug rarely are. But he was demoted, reassigned, and placed under stricter oversight. The tank tops lost their swagger. The midlife crisis lost its budget. His ego lost its gym membership. He sent me one final email. "I hope one day we can talk. I miss you. I never meant to hurt you." I didn't reply. Not out of anger, but because the version of me he loved no longer existed. She'd retired. The moment I finally let go. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I was cleaning out a drawer and found the leftover itching powder packet. Only a pinch remained at the bottom, like glitter from a party I barely remembered attending. I held it in my palm and chuckled. This stupid little prank product had changed my entire life trajectory. Not because it caused chaos, but because it reminded me I wasn't powerless. I tossed it in the trash, not with bitterness, with gratitude. It had done its job. Now it was my turn to do mine. The new life I didn't know I wanted. I submitted an essay to an online publication, a funny, sharp, anonymous piece about rediscovering yourself at 59. They accepted it. Then they asked for more. Then they offered a weekly column. Just like that, my voice, muted for decades, found an audience. Every Friday morning, I sit by the window, typing, sipping coffee, letting my silver hair catch the sunlight like it's proud of itself. And sometimes, when the gym across the street opens its doors and people jog by in neon headbands, I smile. Not out of spite, out of acknowledgement. That chapter happened. It didn't break me. It rearranged me. My last word on love. I'm not dating, not yet. But I'm not closed. I'm simply whole. I've learned that companionship is wonderful, but not at the cost of invisibility. If love comes again, it will have to find me as I am now. Sharp, funny, unapologetic, and profoundly done with men who say, it's not what it looks like. The final image tonight, I'm standing by my balcony, city lights glittering below like spilled jewelry. My home is quiet, warm, full of things I chose. I lift my glass, not to Doug, not to revenge, not to the past, to myself. To the woman who finally walked out of the background and into her own story. And as I take a slow sip, I whisper, the last workout was mine.